Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the astrological energies of April 29th until May 6th as we are in Taurus season and approaching the month of May, which will begin with a Scorpio full moon, Beltaine, Mercury moving into Taurus, and Pluto stationing retrograde. So we'll be discussing all of that and more in today's podcast. Now, I have to tell you that as I'm recording this, there is a brand new rocket launch occurring near me, and there's going to be 2 sonic booms, and I don't know when they're going to happen. And so I'm going to do my best to ensure they don't interfere with this podcast recording, but they might, and you might even hear the sonic booms in the background. So we'll see how this plays out. Frankly, I love the sonic booms because of how that energy moves through the sky and clears the air, clears the old frequencies. It's very Uranian since Uranus is the god of the sky, ruling rocket launches, advanced technologies, and what is going on beyond Earth's atmosphere. And if you're curious, this rocket is the Falcon Heavy, which hasn't been launched since 2024. And it has these 2 side, did you hear that? 2 side boosters that return down to their landing platforms. Okay, the 2 sonic booms just happened. They're not captured in the recording here, even though I jumped both times. But what this Falcon Heavy is doing is bringing more satellites into orbit, but they never fully disclose how many or what's going on or any other experiments that are also occurring with these launches. SpaceX is the leading competitor who is bringing all of these Starlink satellites out into orbit. And I just learned something interesting today that every 16 hours, one of these Starlink satellites falls out of the sky. It's part of their business model that the older satellites re-enter Earth's orbit. And as it does so, the satellite burns up in the upper atmosphere. So it never fully lands back on Earth. But that's essentially how they get rid of and change over the old satellites as they are then launching the new, more advanced versions at the same time. And so far this year, 171 of these Starlink satellites have re-entered our atmosphere, which is adding more aluminum oxide to the stratosphere and the mesosphere. And so as a result of this, it's turned into this giant atmospheric chemistry experiment because those satellites that are burning up in the upper atmosphere release aluminum oxides, and that affects the ozone. And then additionally, the Starlink satellite constellation is growing. It's increasing very quickly, and there are more space competitors who are seeking to do the same. So all of this is Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, and they are approaching a trine that will be exact when both are at 4 degrees of their respective signs, and that is coming here in July, when not only will Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini be at 4 degrees, but Neptune in Aries will be at 4 degrees and Jupiter in Leo will be at 4 degrees. This is a big deal astrologically, and we'll be discussing this even more. But when you have all of these outer planets harmonizing and syncing up at the same degree point in fire and air signs, the world is changing quickly, permanently, and drastically with this alignment. We're going to have a burst of new creations, developments, and evolutionary growth. There's going to be a lot that's transpiring in July. And in fact, Pam Gregory and I discussed that in our YouTube conversation back in February. So if you want to listen to that or check it out, that would be a good heads up into what we are moving towards, that we're already feeling and sensing. So I wanted to share all that with you. And now let's get back to what's going on this week in the cosmos, as I want to start with a final transit that is happening here in April, where on April 29th, Venus in Gemini is squaring the nodes of fate at 6 degrees. And this is a fast moving square. So we have Venus in Gemini at 6 degrees, the North Node in Pisces at 6 degrees, and the South Node in Virgo at 6 degrees. This means that Venus is asking you to check in on what you are choosing to give mental energy to, and to ensure that it aligns with also trusting your intuition. And this can seem like a very interesting dance at times, because that Venus in Gemini is cerebral and logical. She's very chatty and social. She likes to read, text, hang out, discuss. She can be quite social. And yet at the same time, things can get away from her. She can lose track of time or be disconnected from her true priorities. And so as Venus squares the nodes of fate, you're being asked to become more mindful of what you're giving mental energy to, and to ensure that you're leaving an opening for that North Node in Pisces to guide you forward intuitively. So this could be a time when you are just trusting the day, open to what unfolds, and not thinking you have to overly plan or organize it. And that can be something that the South Node in Virgo is revealing, where you want things to look a certain way. You have it prepared and mapped out, and this is what it needs to be. But that North Node in Pisces is asking you to let it loose, let it breathe, let it exhale, and see what comes about when you move into more of your creative spirit. And so the square from Venus could show you where you're doing that well, and you're allowing more time to bring in things you enjoy, and you're not being too strict with yourself around what your mind is expecting or the shoulds. So middle of the week, check in on your shoulds, but ensure that whatever you're choosing also lifts your energy and brings more brightness into your day. Then as April closes out, we begin the month of May with a powerful Scorpio full moon that is always meant to bring you into an intense understanding of what you're holding and carrying, and asks you to filter out what is yours and what is not yours. The Scorpio energy will reveal your truer desires, fears, truth, something you're determined to continue to hold or possess. But the opposition from the Sun in Taurus seeks to make something simple, basic, clear, and real. And so this is the filtering process that I always see with the Scorpio full moon, is that what emotions or what attachments do you need to loosen up and let go of even more? Because ultimately it's holding you down or preventing you from moving forward into the new starts that have been energized over the past few months. And that's because we still have these planets in Aries propelling us forward, giving us new energy and momentum for the new endeavors and new chapters that are cosmically timed for this year. And so the Scorpio full moon can be stirring up all the fears you have around something, a new choice, a new direction, a new dream, showing you even what left an emotional imprint that you're seeking to transmute and transform. But it requires intensity and brutal self-honesty that can reveal any of your own personal patterns or attachments that no longer serve you. Now that's because both Scorpio and Taurus are fixed signs, so they prefer something to be definite, true, clear, reliable, and stable. Of course, this can be wonderful for anything you are building and you want to put energy into. But at the same time, you could also realize what is holding you back, that actually your consciousness has outgrown it. Your energy field has expanded beyond the attachment, beyond the pattern. And with this full moon, we also have a square from Pluto in Aquarius at 5 degrees, which is preparing to station retrograde on May 6th. So we have a very deep evolutionary pressure here around what you need to let go of that you could be fighting against. You could say, I'm not ready to let go of that, or it doesn't feel complete. I don't feel good about it. There's something here in that energy of it doesn't feel peaceful. It doesn't feel okay. Something doesn't feel okay, and the universe is saying it's time to move on. It's time to move on, Buttercup. You've got to release this. You've got to move through this. You've got to accept it as is, whatever that may be, and then continue on. Because the intense pressure here is very uncomfortable. It's unsatisfying. And that can be hard at that mental level and even the egoic sense of maybe not feeling empowered or strong about something. But what I'm seeing here in this particular timeline of the Scorpio full moon is that we're currently in an accelerated time field. And there are things that have dragged on that are just done and over. You're over it, right? It's like stale and moldy. Who cares? You've outgrown it is a more empowering way to look at it, because there's something too that it can feel unfinished because something didn't happen on your terms or in your way or what you thought would transpire. And that's part of this dissatisfaction that could be hard to let go of, because I'm seeing that the intensity of the Scorpio full moon will keep you grasping on things, even grasping onto straws. But the universe is saying the tides are turning, the wheel is spinning. It is a cycle that is phased out. It's actually already complete. And for some people, I feel that it was complete last year. So what are you holding on to from last year that you know in your higher consciousness, and especially at an intuitive level? This is complete. There's no longer energy that supports it. It's time to truly let it go and move on. And of course, that can be emotional. That can be something that brings up grief or sadness. There's things here that you could also be sensing don't reveal what's been going on internally in your private thoughts and inner world. But what matters most is that you understand what you were learning or how you're growing from this, and to take whatever remains or whatever it is and then refocus on what you can do going forward. So it brings you back into the sun in Taurus energy, which is where you determine that you value something enough to build it. You invest in it. And so there are new questions here around, what am I ready to welcome into a new form that will serve me going forward? What is bringing me back into this present moment? Feet on ground, hand on heart, feeling fully present in my body and my energy field, and now operating from the power of the present moment in order to move ahead while realistically accepting what is, as well as what is not. And that's part of Scorpio, is that can show you what you feel is a loss, an ending, a closure that never happened. And so that's part of accepting what is not, as in what did not happen or what did not show up or what did not come through that you desired or wanted. And so even though the endings or completions can feel very real, so does the reset. So does the what happens next part of the story that continues on. Because what I'm seeing is that we're moving towards a Taurus new moon in a few weeks on May 16th. That is a big reset in the area of your chart and your life, where Uranus and Taurus previously made sudden changes, big disruptions, and permanently changed something in your value system at a core level. And so this is a part of that story where you're realizing that all the things that are closing out and complete for you have ultimately set you free to move on to the next endeavor that, again, so much of 2026 is about. But you might have one of those, quiet, private moments of mourning and grief around whatever is energetically over. And there's something to be said for how we work with timing, especially astrologically, because astrology is the cycles of energies that we move through. And these cycles are based on thousands of years of tracking and witnessing astrological transits, collecting that knowledge base for us to continue to reference and refine with each cycle. And so that's how we become more astute at understanding the cycles. And that's also where we have greater power in working with them, meaning there's times in our lives when we have big openings, big developments, and you got to say yes and move with it and take action and make it happen. And then the energy moves on and things change. And so it feels like this is from a past cycle, from the past few years, that is still lingering, or maybe you're realizing you still have an attachment to it at some level of your being, but the universe is saying we're moving on. Things are changing, things are shifting, a new day is here, new options are opening, new developments are coming to life, and that is especially true as we move into May. And so on May 1st, we have Beltaine, and Beltaine is known as well as May Day, and it is connected to a cross-point celebration between the equinox and the solstice. And so it's the midpoint between those two astronomical markers of the calendar year. And Beltaine is a time of becoming fully alive when there is a new fire that's brought into the energy field. It is where spirit becomes matter, intention grows stronger, creativity lights up as the sun becomes more influential and stays in the northern hemisphere for longer time periods every day. Beltaine is about fertility, pleasure, passion, embodiment. It also is a return to the earth and the earth's vitality. I think of it as it relates to the story of Persephone and how she was kidnapped by Hades and brought into the underworld against her will. The Persephone story is one of her innocence and purity around goodness and the world being drastically disrupted and permanently changed by Hades' desire for her and her beauty. He wanted her beauty for himself, brought him into the depths and darkness of the world, which symbolizes how Persephone was able to move into shadow territory, darkness, the hidden realms, the mysteries, and the unspoken, as well as the secrets of Hades' underworld. Her mother, Ceres, was distraught, grief-stricken, and traumatized by the kidnapping and loss of her daughter. And Ceres is known as the mother of the asteroids. She is located in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. And so all she could do was tend to the practical matters of life and get on with things. And so she focused on the work she could do every day, the choices she could make, what she could control and tend to. And during this time of separation from her daughter Persephone, she met up with Mercury, the messenger, who is one of the few energies that could go into Hades' underworld, who could traverse between the realms. That's part of Mercury's strength. So Mercury went into the underworld and negotiated terms for Persephone to return to the earth half the year and then return to Hades for half the year. Of course, I'm doing broad strokes here with the mythology, but it's associated with Taurus and Scorpio themes. And so as we move into Taurus season, this is celebrated as the return of Persephone, when the earth becomes more abundant, fertile, colorful, and beautiful. And it also symbolizes the cycles of life that we move through, where after you've experienced loss, what do you choose to build next? What gives you life? What inspires you to enjoy this world and your five senses and to make something from your spiritual self that enhances your earthly experiences? So the energy of Beltaine also relates to this mythology of Persephone returning to earth, as we see more blossoming and blooming, farm animals giving birth to their new babes, and also the beginning, or rather early stages, of the agricultural process. Beltaine is a celebration of light, life, physical embodiment. And when we look at it astrologically, it also signifies that the sun in Taurus is reaching a world point degree at 15 degrees of Taurus. Now, 15 degrees of each fixed sign are world point degrees. These are energies that are more prominent and global. They are more center stage and elevated. So every time the sun moves across 15 degrees of a fixed sign, we are meant to pay attention to what is going on at a global level with these themes. In Taurus, it's not only some of the themes I just mentioned, but it relates to finances, economics, inflation, money, spending, accumulation, what you own and invest in. Also relates to love, abundance, divine unions, sacred partnerships, coming together to co-create more joy and harmony on the planet. Very strong creative energy here that's meant to move something into physical form. You're meant to tangibly experience your creativity through some kind of form or through your five senses. Taurus is the energy of what you're building. And so this is where we plant seeds and determine this is what will prosper. This is what will lead me forward and turn into something. And it is important to be very deliberate with what you are doing and focusing on now. And as we look at the energies of end of April and into May, we still have the strong focus of planets in Aries, Neptune, Saturn, Mars, Mercury, and Chiron. The Sun is all alone in Taurus. And then we now have Uranus in Gemini along with Venus in Gemini. And so there's a lot going on right now that could be requiring your time, energy, and attention. A lot more emails, a lot more text messages, a lot more things on your calendar that are perhaps even bringing you to capacity faster than ever. But the Sun in Taurus is where you take a beat to check in on what you really need to do. The slower moving Sun and Taurus themes are bringing you into greater practical awareness around what you need to do and what is excessive. And so even though the Sun is all alone in Taurus until Mercury enters Taurus on May 2nd, there's a sense here of stabilizing yourself, getting quiet, getting calm, and listening. What do I need to take care of? What really matters? And you might see things differently. You might understand, okay, I've just wasted time doing this, or I wasted energy going in that direction. I'm coming back to center and using the strength of that determined Taurus energy to declare what matters to you now and what you will make a priority. With Venus being the ruler of Taurus and Venus being in Gemini and conjunct Uranus, there can be too much going on. More people showing up, more invitations, more developments, just more things happening. And you could have that FOMO, that fear of missing out, or you could have a sense of overwhelm, that there's things happening that you aren't sure if you should go to that event or which order to do your errands in. So this is where we're really feeling the pace of life is speeding up. Now, also on May 1st, with that Scorpio full moon, this Venus in Gemini sextiles Saturn in Aries at 9 degrees, and that's going to help with conscious decision making. This is where that Saturn in Aries is going to help you determine what serves me best, what is in alignment with my new endeavors and goals. And that's going to help Venus and Gemini make a clear choice and stick with it, because that Gemini energy will go back and forth and not make a decision. But the beginning of May can give you some understanding of what is important to choose. Also, during the Scorpio full moon, Mercury in Aries is conjunct Chiron in Aries at 27 degrees. And so this can make you doubt something, doubt a choice, question it, second guess yourself. And that Mercury in Aries moves quickly. And so you could feel more scattered and wondering, what do I choose? And Chiron brings in the healing solution and remedy. Chiron in Aries says, do what's good for you. Do what aligns with your natural energy right now. Don't say yes to everything. Don't feel like you have to take it all on. Slow down. That's a Chiron influence, by the way, is to slow it down, sit with it, and feel into your body. What do you have energy for? And that's also going to support you in knowing what to take on and what is essential here as May begins. Because again, the energy is moving faster, our days are speeding by, and we are learning how to keep pace and to track with this accelerated experience of reality. Now, after that big, bright Scorpio full moon energy comes through, we're then going to see on May 2nd, Mercury enter Taurus. And this is where Mercury becomes more practical in realistically assessing situations, experiences, and needs. Mercury slows down his thought process in Taurus. He slows it down and says, let me think this through. I need time. I need time to consider this and consider that, and I do not want to be rushed. So I feel this is going to be a supportive, grounding influence as Mercury enters Taurus on May 2nd, traveling behind the sun and showing you what really is worth your time and what you actually have time for. Because all the Aries energy lights things up. It's an ignition, an activation of I'm going to do this and I'm going to go here and I want this and I'm so inspired. And then as the planets move into Taurus, the grounding influence says, okay, wait, I've only got so much time in a day. I've only got so much money to work with. I only have so much that I can really take on. What's it going to be? And so Mercury enters Taurus and you're going to see your choices in a clearer way. And this means you could feel stronger giving a no. A no, thank you. No, it's not the right time. No, I'm sorry, I don't have availability. That no comes from how the earth signs are about the limitations and boundaries of the real world. And so it helps you slice out things that just are too much. And you can do so gracefully with Mercury and Taurus. You can do so with kindness and with compassion for how it's going to be received, which is always important, especially if you have to make another choice and you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And you do so in a way that's respectable to them and their energy, as well as understanding, because people understand, like we're all busy right now. There's so much going on that people understand if you have to change your mind, but it's also essential to understand how it's going to land, how it's going to affect them and how they receive it. And so being more conscientious is very important here during Taurus season. Although honestly, it's important during every season, but the Taurus energy is looking at what you're ready to effectively communicate with Mercury here. Then on May 4th, Mars in Aries squares Jupiter in Cancer at 19 degrees. And this is an interesting square because Mars is strong in his home sign of Aries. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. At 19 degrees, there's big energy here coming through around what you want to do. And it's a force bigger than you. It's like, I'm going to do the thing. And it has this very big, intense, amplified feeling around it that could make you either very determined and or very defensive and sensitive. I feel like this is a square that amplifies both Mars and Jupiter. So this could be more emotional. This could be more excitable and activating. And basically, the energy here is don't go overboard. Don't take on too much as the work week begins on Monday. You could be inspired to do so, but it's not going to last. These are passing influences. And so you want to stay mindful of what is propelling you forward, where you feel that strong, energizing effect of Mars in Aries. And the square to Jupiter in Cancer seeks emotional fulfillment and connection. And so if it's going overboard, you might realize that you feel exhausted and overwhelmed. There can even be an accelerated depletion energy here. Stay mindful of accidents whenever Mars in Aries is squared. And from Jupiter in Cancer, the accidents would be from water, rain, storms, rivers, flooding, a pipe bursting. The Jupiter in Cancer influence can actually wipe out the fire of Mars in Aries. And so that Mars in Aries, it's ready to go and is energized, could feel the effects of something being flooded out from Jupiter in Cancer. It can also simply be way too much emotional energy, too much anger, reactivity, hyper-expression, especially stemming from an immature, unhealed place. There could certainly be some big tantrums and explosive outbursts with this square as well. So basically stand back if you're seeing that or feeling that from anyone. And so a more positive use of this force is to move with whatever is deeply inspiring you now. This could feel like it's an out-of-body inspiration, like you just have to do the thing. You're just feeling propelled forward beyond something bigger than you. And that's that Jupiter in Cancer providing a surge of emotional energy to whatever Mars in Aries is directing himself towards. Now, after that, on May 5th, Mercury in Taurus squares Pluto in Aquarius at 5 degrees. And this is continuing the conversation that started when the Sun in Taurus squared Pluto in Aquarius at 5 degrees. which was back on April 25th, April 26th. Now we have the second square, and Mercury brings in evidence, documentation, proof, receipts, and clear physical demonstration of whatever that sun in Taurus brought to your conscious awareness. So essentially, Mercury now enters into an uncomfortable evolutionary conversation with this Pluto in Aquarius, revealing what you have to let go of that you don't want to release, revealing what has not been fully disclosed. This can bring about secrets, secret transactions, behind the scenes dealings, things that people thought they could cover up and always keep hidden. Whatever is done in the dark comes to the light is essentially how April ends and May begins. And so the shocking revolutions come through a very obvious truth. You can't go online forever. The lying game is meant to end. Manipulation, control, false narratives, everything that is done in the dark can be proven, can be demonstrated. And that's part of what the Taurus season brings to our attention. And so with Mercury squaring Pluto, just as Pluto is preparing to station retrograde the next day at 5 degrees 31 minutes of Aquarius on May 6th, there's going to be more uncomfortable truths and revolutions that are squeezed to the surface, that are purged out, and will challenge mindsets, perceptions, current information, and what was previously accepted. So you can see how these themes also relate to the May 1st Scorpio full moon, because each planet in Taurus is squaring Pluto. Pluto rules Scorpio. We have a strong scorpionic energy happening right now, as it's becoming apparent here through multiple layers of the astrological energies. And so whatever is transpiring for you, whatever you need to face or look at, just know that this is part of an alchemy process that you are moving through, and you are transmuting, if you choose to do so, a lower expression or consciousness into something that's meant to serve you for a future trajectory and a future expression. And I feel like this is asking each of us to dig in to more of our authentic energy field, what we're feeling and sensing that we thought we had to diminish, hold back, or repress. Because a strong Pluto energy will bring to the forefront repressed memories, parts of your energy or parts of your talents, parts of yourself that you held back because it didn't fit in or you didn't know where to place it. The unconscious Aquarius energy, which I'm referencing since Pluto is in Aquarius until 2044, and Pluto's influence is strong this week because of the station retrograde. Well, the Aquarius energy is where you think you have to join something. You have to belong, you have to fit in, you have to have your group of people, as if that makes you more yourself or makes you more worthy of being here on the planet. And so we are having some new understandings of what it means to truly be yourself at an individual level, knowing that that's enough, that's what's needed, and that right there demonstrates that you're meant to be here on the planet, and it's not about anyone else. And so the Aquarius energy is showing us where we have limited our individual energy fields in order to subscribe to a collective mindset or a group dynamic, or join a team, or be a part of a group, whatever that may be for you. And of course, that could be at various times in your life, whether you were on a sports team, whether you joined a certain club, or you were part of an activity, or it could be the people in your neighborhood. It could be a friend group. The Aquarius energies show up through all the various ways we make connections in the outside world. And so there could be something here that you're realizing it's too confining. It's not me. It's holding me back from what I'm excited about, what I'm here to develop, and how I'm here to grow. And so something to remember is that you came here to be a very empowered version of yourself in this lifetime. And that's true for millions of people. And that's why we're having these ongoing awakenings and expanded consciousness energies, is that we're returning and remembering to what it means to be a fully empowered, sovereign individual who no longer lives from an unhealed, triggered, wounded, discompassionate state of self. Because the human journey, no doubt about it, brings about a lot of wounding, triggers, pain, rejection, abandonment. Essentially, this is an experience where we are refining and elevating our emotional selves, our mental selves, spiritual selves, physical selves, all the selves, in order to fully embody a new version of a human experience from an empowered, loving state. And all of this can help you in that journey if this aligns for you, if that's what you seek. And yet there also are no shortcuts. But what I'm seeing is really interesting. I'm seeing how far the collective has come in these healing themes, and that so many of you could feel like you're 90% done. Like you've just gone through so much over the past few decades of your life that you're at this whole new place in yourself. And that's what beautifully aligns with the astrology right now of these Aries energies ushering you forward into new realities that directly reflect your own empowered state. So it all feels very encouraging to me. And I want to offer that as a message here too, because even though the intensity of these Plutonic themes are going to bring up fears, you might realize too that you're working with them and feeling them at a whole new level of your being. Like they're no longer the deep fears, they're just kind of shallow. You know, they don't go in, they don't puncture, they don't hit hard. They just kind of scratch the surface and you're like, meh, all right, whatever, don't even care. It doesn't get through, it doesn't affect you. And that right there is beautiful validation of how much you have healed and transformed and who you are now. I'm getting this image of just watching a flea circus and an army of Lego minifigs. It's like, you don't take that seriously. That doesn't have an impact on your energy or your expansive state of being, but it's comical and you can see it for what it is. Then we move on to the next thing and we keep it going. We keep moving forward. And so when we take all these energies together and we relate it to the festive spirit and celebratory energy of Beltaine, when we understand that this is a season of growth, abundance, and development, what do you want to do now that lights you up and moves you forward? What are you seeing is that next step for you that brings you life and returns you to your core creative self? There's even a question here about what are you ready to receive? You're ready to receive it deeply and fully because your self-worth frequency has changed to such a place that you know you're worthy of receiving everything and anything that is good for you, body, mind, spirit, and soul. And so that's part of this Taurus season influence as well. Plus Jupiter in Cancer is your receptive nature that allows you to bring in and manifest what is correct for you now, and also based on the strong feminine energies that we are continuing to trust and honor. So overall, this could be a time period when new parts of you are coming to life because of the deeper emotional transitions you're being required to move through. You could feel a strong, stable confidence that says, I've got this. It's covered, I'm determined and aware of my power, and whatever is meant to complete and meant to leave has served its purpose, and it's okay to allow it to go. So in your chart, you want to identify where you have 11 degrees of Scorpio, as this is where the Scorpio full moon is rising up, illuminating an emotional understanding and truth that is very important for you to see now. I have a separate video for you on YouTube going through the Scorpio full moon chart, which I hope assists you in connecting some more dots around what is transpiring and the themes of this particular lunar cycle. And I'm going to end it there for this week's show. So thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new episode, as it is a joy and pleasure to share this astrological journey with you. Wishing you a beautiful start to May, happy Beltaine, and happy Scorpio full moon, which I hope leaves you more empowered and alive as a result of the transformations that unfold. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you back here soon.